The Washington Commanders are taking calls for the second pick in the draft. Don't believe that, Raider Nation. We'll talk about that here on the Put On Raiders podcast. So, I'm not sure why lying during this time of year really serves any purpose. People can see your roster, people can see what your needs are, what the philosophies of the offensive play caller is, the head coach, all those things like that. So I don't understand why we go through this whole experience every 5 seconds about lying about who is going to be, what's going to happen here and what's going to happen there. At the end of the day, the Raiders are in need of quarterback. Everybody knows it, so there's nothing to hide there. And so are the Washington Commanders. And the Washington Commanders are not, or I repeat, are not going to trade that pick to get to the they're not going to trade the second pick in the draft because any GM, and Adam Peters is a really good GM, they're not going to change. They're going to change their whole philosophy of what they're doing. He took that job because they have the second pick in the draft. He took that job because they can get Drake May, and maybe Caleb Williams, maybe Jay and Daniels. So he's in a very powerful position. And why would you trade that when you know in the coming years there's not a lot of quality prospects? You know that there's not a lot of quality prospects coming back. So in return for the 2025 draft. So this is a great draft for quarterbacks. Is it going to be like a 50%, 40% hit rate, all those things like that, or things that in college football that really don't translate to NFL football? The things in high school football that don't translate to college football. But at the end of the day, there's not really a question about it. That you're not trading that. They're not trading that pick. They can field calls. You can call all day, call all night. They're not doing it. And because they need a quarterback. And they need a quarterback desperately. I think maybe, just maybe, if they had Sam Howell on the roster, that would have been a possibility. But with Sam Howell being traded to the Seattle Seahawks, he's going to battle out for against Geno Smith and see who's the starting quarterback there. I don't see any reason. I don't see any way, shape, or form how they can they're gonna trade that pick at all. And I bring it back to the Raiders with this because the Raiders fans, and sometimes I know understand. I mean, until the draft pick is made, you're gonna hopefully you're gonna wish upon a star that that deal is made and the Raiders can trade all the way from 13 to 12. Those games at the end of the season just weren't worth it. And I think if they just lost one more game, they'd be in the eighth slot. So, they didn't. They won those games. I think Antonio. I'm not going to tell Antonio Pierce and those players to not win those games because they desperately. I mean, for them, they feel like they desperately needed to win those games. They won them, and now they're in the 13th slot, and they're still going to be in a position to get a quarterback. It's just that does somebody fall in the top four fall and they trade up, or do they sit there at 13 and pick either Penix or Nix or maybe McCarthy or maybe somebody else like that who may fall. It's time the rent is due. It's time to take a quarterback. Stop playing games. Don't be silly. So I'm seeing also people talking about other quarterbacks now, and they're not. So if you're not fond on Nix, you're not fond on Penix, then you're gonna go all the way to Jordan Travis. We're going all back to Jordan Travis now. Like the guy. Even if he was healthy, that would be a really tough sell for the nation. He's hurt. He won't be playing in 2024 anyway. And you need somebody who can possibly take over the job for Gardner Minshew later in the season because I think he's clearly the number one guy there too as well. So Washington's lying. Don't believe them. They're not doing it. Wouldn't be the first time a GM and a coach to say talk about drafting who or not drafting a quarterback. They're taking a quarterback at 2, whether it's May, taking a quarterback at 2, whether it's Jay Daniels, whether it's JJ McCarthy, but they're taking a quarterback at 2. It's up to the Raiders to kind of play that board with a GM who doesn't really move a lot to see if one of those guys drops. Are they willing to trade up to go get somebody? That's the big deal. Are they willing to go there and trade? Do they see those guys as a possible possible big upgrade from the other? Do they have the same grade on all those quarterbacks? So I know it's just quarterback talk, but when you're the Raiders and it's 17 years, 18 years in between first round QBs, that's pretty much where you got to go. All right, Raider Nation, a little quick daily morning podcast for you. We'll try to do these every morning, and we will talk to you next time. Go Raiders.